Hello and welcome to MMA Patter. In this episode, I was speaking to Alan Rafferty. He's a black belt Taekwondo, coaches the Scottish national team. He's also a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Marcos Nardini, so overall an amazing martial artist. So it was really fun speaking to him about martial arts, about his philosophies and teaching and things. So yeah, really enjoyable, so I hope you enjoy that. So take it away, this is the episode. So we've known each other for a few years, but we've only recently started kind of speaking because you kind of train in the kind of hall beside us at karate.
Right next door.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've been next door to those guys. Going on, I've been teaching in there 12 years nearly.
Oh wow!
And it was Paul that was teaching the class before when I first started
Yeah.
training there. So I didn't initially start training there. I've travelled a lot around Scotland with clubs and different instructors, and then just before I got my black belt, so the Taekwondo system, it's a red belt.
Okay.
Before black, I moved there to train under a guy called Andrew Ree,
Right.
who's Grandmaster Ree's son.
Right.
So
Good to know who he is,
Grandmaster Ree's the founder of British Taekwondo, so the man that brought it to this country
Right.
back in the 60s, and he still lives in Glasgow.
Oh really?
Yeah, over
wow.
in near Sandy Hills.
Right. Okay.
But his son was teaching there, and I moved to train under him to prepare for my black belt exam. So I thought, if the guy that's promoting me, who's best to train me than his son? So
Absolutely. It's the lineage.
well, that was it. So there's the founder, Grandmaster Ree, Grandmaster Ree's son, me.
Good.
So you're that's where I sit. But there's a lot of guys on the second tier, and then a lot of guys on the third tier under our the Grandmaster Ree. There's loads of people, but it's the generation. We're fourth generation Taekwondo because it's not an old art form at all.
Oh really? I
Yeah.
thought it was reasonably.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people, because it's a traditional martial art it's quite well known. It's very well world renowned now. It was founded in 55.
Really?
1955. Yeah.
Okay.
General Choi. He passed away in 2002.
Right. Okay.
And he was an unarmed. It was an unarmed form of combat formed in the military over in Korea. He was a general, and he decided to.
You just kind of.
Well, he was a judo student
Oh really? Okay.
and a karate student. He'd studied a lot of things. He was very fond of the history of different types of martial arts, particularly from Korea. Obviously, his home country, and he decided that he could better them,
Okay.
and created this art form, which was why I believe you actually perform a pattern called Hwarang,
Yes.
which we do as well.
Yeah.
It's the same one, because it comes from the same style of when he studied karate. He brought some of those with him, and there's little changes, but it's quite similar.
Oh wow.
So there is a lineage following the art forms through the decades and centuries, but Taekwondo itself is young, in terms of a martial art.
Oh, right.
Very young. But yeah, it's bizarre that I speak to the guys, and Alex, who's been on before. I've known him a long time, and we speak a lot.
Yeah.
Occasionally
Great
we'll
guy.
grab a coffee before class.
Oh right.
At
Okay.
Starbucks and stuff like that. But yeah, it's only recently we've started talking, and it's purely because of how my training's changed, and I've been watching that your guys have been changing as well, because Paul didn't do any of the ground stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. So when things started changing, I was going, there's some
Something,
things.
yeah.
Well, no, it's more that there's more common ground to talk about stuff.
Absolutely.
There's nothing worse than someone coming over and talking to you from another martial art, especially when it can be deemed not hostile, but are they just poking their nose in, or are they coming over to say, "Oh, you're doing that wrong," which is generally the feeling that people get when someone comes in. They've got a black belt around their waist, and they go, "The hell does he want?" It's always on the negative to start with. Everyone's always on the back foot. In a lot of areas, I've found with our style, our association, are one of the most open that I've ever met. And someone turns up, and you come.
Yeah.
I mean, with the university, we've got people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And you've got to have that kind of welcoming attitude. I've got guys that are training with me, they were black belts in slightly different styles of Taekwondo.
Okay.
I'm not going to make them take it off. As far as I'm concerned, you're a Taekwondo black belt, you come and train as one.
Yeah.
And it starts to build a nice nice family, you know, and a community around the world, and we have to start branching out and talking to people from other associations, other styles, because now is the generation of mixed martial arts. So you can't live in that generation and then put your blinkers on and live in your little bubble. So
of just purely striking and things like that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, or anything, just anything. There is no true single martial art anymore. I don't think.
It has to be a hybrid ultimately.
Eventually, it is, and you know, the first person who started doing it was Bruce Lee. When he did Jeet Kune Do, it was all strip away the crap, keep the things that we want to keep, and make it, you know, as best as it can be of what he had studied.
And on your point about Jeet Kune Do, what I liked about his philosophy is that you can adjust it to yourself. So say somebody's Jeet Kune Do, if they were to do it, would not be the same as Bruce Lee's, even though they're under the same tutor, or he is ultimately the same tutor. If it doesn't work for that particular student, they would strip it out and they would do something different, but it would still be a uniform martial art.
You adapt, and what's this? You know, overcome, and you know, figure out what you can do, what you can't do, which is where, you know, as from our point of view, our standpoint in traditional martial arts, that's a failing on our part. I think so, because if someone comes into me, and let's say, for example, they want to practice taekwondo, but they have a severe back injury, there's a certain point they cannot get past in the syllabus that allows you to get the next belt.
Right, okay.
Because you're physically incapable of performing it. You know, and that's the same for any traditional martial art. If you have a requirement to move up a belt, for example, you have to, you know, kick above your waist height through a board, like you've seen your guys doing, but this person say they can't do that. So that's them reached their glass ceiling in that art form. Okay. Whereas there's something else they can take from another part. You know, for example, they could be good at wrestling. They might be good at the jiu-jitsu. They might be good at boxing. Because the only thing that's stopping them is their mobility in their legs or their hips. You know, my original instructor had to stop properly training because he ended up with a really bad hip injury. And it was starting to fuse, and it was a genetic thing. And you know, he stayed at the same level the whole time I've known him. He's been that grade for life, because there's no point he can go past. And he made his peace with it. He was happy with it. You know, he's had an operation to fix it. He's still training.
Wow. Okay.
But there's that place where he just knows these things are, well, I hate saying the word unattainable, but it's, you can't drive if you can't see, and you accept that. So if you can't do the criteria, then that's where you're kind of stuck.
But doesn't stop him being a good teacher then, because
no,
he still has
he's a phenomenal teacher.
Experience, he has the background, and probably had the ability to do the kick before.
That injury. When I first met him, he used to knock lumps out of me. That was the mark of a good instructor and a good student, was when you, after you'd been there for a little while, they kick the hell out of you, and if you kept coming back, they go, you're worth my time. Nowadays you can't do that. Nowadays, the snowflake society, that we've got to be careful of what we do and who we hit and how we speak to them. And
absolutely.
At the end of the day, we're not a government institution. We're not a what they call a statutory right. Training martial art it's an extracurricular thing that if you want to do it, you pay for it. You're not entitled to it. So if you can't do it, then it's not your thing. Don't worry about it. There's going to be something else.
I quite like that, because there's so many different types of martial arts that necessarily, if you as a person feel the need to compete and feel to get better in that combat environment, say you turn up to karate and go, actually I don't like that, but see you guys cross the hall and go, actually you guys do a bit more kicking, or whatever the case may be, they might go, actually I prefer the taekwondo, and you have that right.
Yeah, funny you mentioned, because there's been a few students over the years that have started and they've switched over. And we've seen them and we've noticed it, and Alex and I are like, there's another one, jump ship, and they leave, but then the next week they come back and they're with you, and you're looking over going, you know,
what's happened?
Well, I don't know why he's in my side, Alex. Does he forget what side he should be on? Excuse me, you know this isn't the karate class. You feel bad for asking. You're like, I'm not calling you stupid, but you were that side last week, and it's just because they want to try it. But again, the guys that I've always taught in there are so open-minded,
Yeah.
and we just go, aye, fire in, mate.
Yeah.
And Alex has said loads of times, if there's nothing happening and you want to train, and you've trained with me.
Yep.
When your class wasn't on.
Yep. It's great.
We're really flexible. I like that, and I think that's purely down to the fact that we've been there together for so long.
Yeah. Not that animosity, because sometimes, as you mentioned before, when you see somebody with a black belt coming towards you, you go, okay, what's going to happen here? But then there's always the conversation of, we do it this way. It's not like, oh, this is interesting, but it's almost as if like it's my style against yours, but tribalistic sometimes.
Well, that's what martial arts was, though. They were formed by different dynasties and things like that around the world. Different heads of families and clans. Well, it was clans in Japan.
Yeah.
It was dynasties in China.
Right.
So the different styles of kung fu and things like that. So that's essentially what it was. It was this is how we do it, our style against your style. And if you watch the old movies, which I'm a big fan of, things like Shadow and the Eagle's Nest and all that kind of stuff. It's a one when they say it's a master. The master is really a head of a clan, and his disciples, almost the religious word. They're disciples. They're not students. And, take me as your disciple, and he's the head of the family type thing.
Right. Okay.
And then you start watching remakes, like Donnie Yen's one of my favourites. If you watch the Yip Man things,
Yeah.
when he's challenged in the first one, it's your southern style beats my northern style, and it's from areas. It's not we're a country. It's our style, your style,
Okay.
and that just kind of, I think, when you say tribalistic, it hits it on the head. That's exactly what it is, and especially between things like a Korean art form and a Japanese art form, where these countries were trying to occupy each other.
Yeah, geographically all the time for the centuries.
And still continue to this day. Just look at the tests they've been doing. So it's that. I think there's a line where some martial arts, they push each other away, and then there's others that like to welcome. And I think we need to, or I hope that it goes that way in the long run, that people start to see it as a way of connecting as opposed to opposing each other and saying, I'm not going to hang about with these guys, and don't talk to them, they're the wrong style and they're doing that wrong. And that's it. There's times where I've had chats with Alex about how things are performed. Karate is a traditional martial art. This is how it's written in the book. This is how we do it.
Yeah.
Taekwondo's always been an evolutionary art form.
I suppose it's quite young, isn't it?
Young, but also the general stated that we never ever settle on a technique and say that it's achieved its peak, because there's always a way. If you say, if you're happy with your performance, you're accepting mediocrity. You should always be aiming for better.
It's a good way to look at it.
Always strive to improve. Never say I've mastered it, because you haven't. There's always some way you can get better. So they're always analysing. We've got a whole board of technical experts and the technical staff that sit in the board, and they're North Korean.
Oh, right, okay.
And these guys scrutinise everything all the time and say that could be done more efficiently. This way we could generate more power. This way we could be faster, and it's always changing. So we attend a lot of international seminars where these guys come out of North Korea, or the grandmasters that are teaching. One of them's based in Bulgaria, one of them's in the Czech, and they all come and we all meet up.
Oh, wow.
And have there's hundreds of black belts, international instructors that train together, and they pass on this new information.
Interesting. So what would be an example of something you've done recently that you've made a change and it's like a worldwide change?
Well, originally when it started, it had what we call a sawtooth motion. So if you had a laser dot on your head as you were moving, it would up and down in a sawtooth triangular fashion. Then they changed it to a sine wave.
Right. Okay.
Because if you look at it from a physics point of view,
Yeah.
kinetic energy is only useful if motion continues. If you're in a sawtooth, there's a point of instantaneous stop.
Yeah.
Therefore, any momentum that you gather, any energy you create is lost.
Okay.
Therefore, they altered it. So that was a huge change, and people having to adapt to that. Karate's different. There's some areas where you guys have got sine wave. In some ways, you've got sawtooth, and then there's other times when you transition and it actually looks like your head level stays the same.
Yeah.
When you're stepping forward and punching, and that was the big thing with Taekwondo was scientifically if you're travelling up and then back down again at the point of impact, then you're adding mass into the technique.
Okay, that's a good way of looking at it actually. Yeah.
And then they realised that if you don't stop at the top and then drop back down, you can actually, all that motion that you generate as soon as you start moving forward, you're generating energy, so you can create more power.
Just way of looking at it actually.
Yeah, so that was a massive change from the birth of Taekwondo to where it sits now. It's a lot of little things, little techniques that have changed, applications, and like I said, they're always evolving. So,
absolutely. And what drew you to Taekwondo initially? You said you started it quite late on.
Well, I was 17. I've always been interested because I was a huge martial arts movie fan, but I was never allowed as a child to participate. Parents seen it as too violent. My brother and I grew up quite a kind of rough area, and we stayed in one area and went to school in another.
Right.
So where we lived, we got grief for where we went to school.
Oh, right.
And when we went to school, we got grief about where we lived. So we were, because there was a school there. So it was a big thing. There was a lot of fighting when I was a kid. And you say that, people say that it's not like you were running away and getting beaten up with bats and knives, and it was when we were younger, so it was fist fights like it used to be. There's no crazy people stabbing you in the back. It was a standing fight type thing. So they didn't want me doing anything in case it exacerbated that. But purely because my brother and I had a habit of saying, look, if we don't have to, we don't fight, we walk away. Whereas I think they had the idea that if I learned how to, I never would. I'd just say, right, let's go. Which is fair enough, they were trying to protect, so I never argued. I was a footballer, and that was fine.
Which is quite a good sport to have if you're going to do a kicking martial
art. I was a keeper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was always short, so I was springy, but it does it because I was always explosive. I was a high jumper, long jumper, distance running, short. So the explosive power was always something I was working on. Now when I think about it, over the years, it was something that seemed to just where I sat, best. And a class appeared in my school one day. Just this, my instructor, the original instructor, George Plew, just all of a sudden there was a flyer up, and I thought, well, I'm 17 now, I'm not going to say no. So, or I was 16, sorry, I was just turned 16, and I just went along. First class, fell in love with it. There was maybe 30 people in that class.
Oh, really? It's quite a big
to
class
start with.
Yeah.
And it moved from the school to somewhere else, and about 10 people followed, and then it went somewhere else. Because with a uni, for us ourselves, it's really easy, because when you're part of a social and sports union, the hall hire, the location, it's something that doesn't really change, because it's an integral part of the uni. When you're an external school, that's something that you have to manage. So when things happen like halls shut down, which is a big thing and has been, community centres going bust, no funding, they're shutting them down. Church halls you can't hire because the church is getting sold, because the Church of Scotland's selling off a lot of property, or purely your numbers fall to the point where you can't afford the building you're in and you have to move. So there was a lot of transition. So I went with George, I went from Paisley Grammar School to Ibrox Sports Centre, the one just in front of the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
We were in there. Then we were in the Clydebank Playdrome. Then I was in the Donald Dewar Centre.
Where's that?
Drumchapel.
Right, okay.
Then we went to Mogai.
You've been around a fair block.
Then Strathblane to the Esporta, which is the Virgin Active, I think.
Yeah.
And then I finally settled in the uni. So, around the block.
That's literally a tour of every periphery.
Yeah, at each point of this, the four corners. But it was because I wanted to train with him, and that's a big thing I think you'll agree with, is that if someone is going to be drawn into doing a martial art and sticking with it, it's down to the instructor.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a captive audience. You got to inspire, you got to be the one that shows them this is worth doing. And he really did. It was just, wow, this guy's amazing. And he had a couple of black belts that were phenomenal, and I just loved training with him. So I went from one night a week to 2 nights a week, and then within 6 months I was training 7 times a week with him.
Fantastic.
And that was it. I was hooked, trained all the time, and that's now 19 years I've been doing it. So it's it's and at the moment I'm 4 times a week, 3 times a week. Just now because the uni's quieter, but and I'm now coaching the international Scotland team.
Oh wow!
So it's it's been a big journey from the start to finish.
It's quite an achievement actually for starting reasonably, what some might say, later on.
Well, yeah, it was hard because the guys that I was up against. It's fine when you're a younger belt, like when you're the beginning. We call them the children's belts. You're not a child, but you're an infant in the martial art.
Yeah.
So, when you're there, it's easy because everybody's in the same boat. You're a yellow belt, so that's 2 grades in. Everyone's going to be about the same age as you. 17's under 18. So my first tournament, I had just turned adult. My first tournament was. I was 17, so I was a junior, 2001.
Right.
And so the people were 14 to 17.
Right.
So it wasn't a big deal. Then I turned 18, and the category's 18 to 39.
It's quite a big step.
Oh yeah.
To say the
But
least.
when you have a colour belt on it, it's not that bad because it's a very narrow window. Because you're not going to get a lot of 30-year-old green belts. Or you didn't then. You get a wee bit more now with people starting later.
Yeah.
But if you did, you didn't mind because, okay, you're 18, you're 19, you're young, but you're fit. You're the same grades, you've had the same level of training experience. The only difference is they might be a wee bit more hardened from life.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the thing you overcome. And yeah, that's it. But when you get to black belt, there's no grades for black belt in competition in Taekwondo. It's not first dan, second dan, third dan.
Right, okay.
It is for the pattern, the kata,
right,
as you call it, the pattern side, the technical, because you can't have a first dan going up against a fifth dan to do something technical because they're both different.
Yeah.
But you spar. So with the sparring category, black belt is black belt 18 to 39. So you can go in there as a young first dan and fight a 35-year-old fifth dan seasoned fighter.
Just had 200 odd fights or whatever.
Easy. So it was it was not too bad going up through the colour belts, but once you got to the black belt category, my eyes were open because I was fighting guys that were my age, but they'd been competing for 10, 12 years. And there's a couple of guys from England that are like my arch nemesis, we call them, but they're not because Cal Davis, his name is. I've been to his wedding. I was in his stag do. There's a championship this weekend and he's up. We're going out together.
Fantastic.
Like we stand on the mat and knock lumps at each other.
Yeah.
Then we go out for a beer. It's
That's the way it
actually
should really
a
be.
real friendship. It's actually a real friendship is developed from that. And earlier on, when we were younger, it was none of that. It was pure ego.
Of course.
You were 23, so I was 21 when I got my first dan, 2005. So, and he was 20. We were fighting each other, and he'd been competing internationally already since he was 14. So he was doing European championships as a child, then an adult. So for me, it was like rabbit in the headlights, but I didn't care because I would stand and fight with MD, so I didn't care. So we had some real battles.
Absolutely.
But you have that area, of experience. So for me, that was the hardest part of starting later. But I've had a lot of competition success nationally, internationally not too bad. But on a national level, a 70 odd gold medal or something like that. A lot of kickboxing championships we won as well because we were going to do them. Yeah, the WK ones.
Oh yeah. Is that the ones where you wear? It's not shorts. You'd wear.
You wear trousers, but we were allowed to wear our taekwondo suit. You could wear a karate suit because it's the World Kickboxing Karate Association. So you can wear what you want. It's just I would wear my dobok because that's who I was representing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the guys that did go from other parts of the taekwondo, they would wear their trousers, but then they put a t-shirt on, and I had full dobok, my belt. Like why? Well, we were taught your dobok's a 3-piece suit. You wear it all or not at all. So I would never, it was a kind of a respect thing, especially who I ended up training under. With that kind of lineage, I was not, and the people we have up top, we've got a lot of respect for them, so I didn't want to do any disrespect. And then when you win, you get photos taken, it's publicised, you might as well show them. Yeah, well, that's, the ITF badge is over your heart, so that's
a reason for that.
Yeah. So that's kind of where my my coaching opportunities came from was because I've had such success, and I'm hoping that's what it is. I'm guessing that's what it is, and I'm a wee bit younger. The guys that we're coaching are a bit older. We've got fresh ideas, so I've been brought on as part of the staff. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, and it's one that's it's shaped my life. So it's been a huge part.
It's a vital part of people's lives a lot of times. Like it's I think we're talking about it before, but if you want to do well, you need to train a lot. Because I think if you're saying you're training 7 days a week, like you don't have any time to do anything else.
Well, that's the thing. We've got to do it while we study or while we work, and then you're going up against pro athletes who
get bursary from their governments and things.
They're paid a lot. I mean, the Baltic countries do very well in our association. Like you're talking thousands for a gold medal at a Worlds and Euros. Nice. We have to pay our own way to get there. These guys are sponsored
by whoever, big companies, the government
funded. So they don't have to work, they don't have to study, or some of them do, but they don't have to work. So I've got this full-time job, which is very highly demanding. And then on the side of that, you've got to do your training, and I've got my 2 schools that I run and the Scotland team. So it's a lot.
Yeah. How do you find time to do anything else?
I don't sleep. I say it to everybody, they laugh about it, but I get maybe 4-5 hours a night if I'm lucky.
All right. Okay.
And it's not because I say if I'm lucky, that's the wrong way of putting it. It's purely that I don't need it. I don't. Okay. I will go to sleep early. I wake up early. Fall asleep late. I wake up early. It doesn't matter. It's always that pattern of how long I sleep never changes. It just the hours I'm awake changes. So I'm expecting one day for it to run it and all my energy disappear, and I'll just be like, I'm now tapping out. I'm gassed. That's me. I'm done. No more training, no more teaching. I'm just going to go live in the countryside and read papers.
Sounds brilliant, actually. Yeah, what can I say? No. But I found that for me personally, I need obviously a bit more sleep. And we were talking about it with one of the guys in the last episode. You probably seen him kicking about Johnny, who runs a gym, and he got really into the whole kind of sleep studying of things. And,
yeah, I've read it.
And just more recovery. So have you found? Or is that something that you just happen to have since you were a child?
I've always been quite an active person. I was speaking to my parents about it, and they said I never sat down. I was always running about. I never broke a bone until I was 18.
Probably from Taekwondo then?
No, it wasn't. I fell. Just it was a stilly one in my thumb.
Okay.
Catching a shoplifter from a job when I was a teenager. Just the scaphoid in my thumb. Second one was the metacarpal in my hand. This one you can see.
Oh yeah.
That was a Taekwondo injury.
So it's a punching injury then, yeah?
Yeah, that was breaking a brick from a.
Because the knuckles a wee bit kind of.
No, these are. Well, this is what happens over the years of conditioning. So part of Taekwondo training is forging. So it's not any sponge or anything. These are just nice and calcified. It's just over the years of making sure your hands are tough. The general always said our Grandmaster in fact passed it on to us, but it's like having a gun with one bullet. If your hand is soft, you want to have unlimited ammo, so you've got to make sure your hands are tough enough to keep going.
That's some Japanese stuff as well. That absolutely.
From a Korean man.
From a Korean man. Yeah.
But I was always active, but I never seemed to get hurt or injured, and I've never required a long downtime if I am hurt. I'm a massive advocate of active recovery. I'm a massive advocate, and it's served me really well. I had a really bad back injury in 2016 after my last international tournament. I was fighting in England in February, and April I was in Thessaloniki, Greece. And in both tournaments I took a bad hit in the back. I ended up with a facet joint injury in my spine. Don't know if you know about them, but
but it's
just
severe.
off the back of the disc you can see there's like little wings. So these are the facet joints, and synovial fluid sits in between, and it was a bad one, and the fluid was damaged, and there was a lot of physio, a lot of I wasn't training. I was told not to train for a year, and just keep going for the recovery. There's a few people, they get it, they actually give you an epidural to get rid of the pain, and allow you to move around. But I've got a friend who's acupuncture and dry needling and the non-Western approach of not just injecting you with drugs, and it seemed to, well, that has worked.
Well,
you know,
I still training.
Well, I took 2 months off, and then I went back to it slowly, and I was back training fully within 7 months, like no injury, no pain.
Fantastic.
So I don't think sleep for me is a massive contributor to recovery.
Okay.
I think it's more about allowing your body to rest while keeping the rest of it working, because I think that if you stop, that injury might recover, but other niggles that are not bothering you because you're constantly doing mobility exercises start to become prevalent, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, my shoulder's sore, why is my shoulder sore? I've not been training. Actually, it's always been sore, or there's always been an issue, but the constant movement, always keeping things loose, and all the mobility exercises have stopped it becoming an issue. So
fantastic.
I think, the day that I do stop, I'm just going to be sitting frozen in my chair.
It's not frozen shoulder, frozen body at that point.
Yeah. So there's for me that's how I managed to get things done. I just seem to do them and get on with it, and
if it works, it works.
Well, what will be for now. That's why I don't compete anymore. That was the one thing that had to go. So there's no taekwondo competition. However, now that I've branched across to another style, I compete there. So
fantastic. So you did jiu-jitsu, and what made you start that from doing taekwondo?
Well, it was the first ever class I went to was actually in 2015.
Right. Okay.
And it was a guy called Chris Farmer and his brother. Chris Farmer. I'm calling him Chris Farmer because his nickname's Farmer.
Right. Okay.
Because he's giant.
Right.
Chris Ayton and his brother Nick Ayton, and I went along to a class in Shawlands. They were blue belt at the time, and it was a guy I know said, "Oh, they do an open mat thing. Do you want to go after training?" So I went up and had a look, and I got leathered. Like, there's no other way of saying it. I get smashed to the centre of the planet, and I went home feeling like I'd been hit by a bus, and they barely did anything. All they did was control me. There was no subs. It was, we're going to keep you on the mat, you try and stay on top, you try and stay on top. 5-minute rounds for 40 minutes or something like that. And I was dead. And I was, a seasoned competitor. I'd spent a long time working, like I was telling you, working nightclub security. I'd been in a lot of scraps. I was pretty confident in my ability, and they shattered it in 40 minutes.
So that's quite a nosedive.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't an ego knock. It was more of just a sudden realisation that the world is so much bigger in terms of martial arts than what I was aware of. I knew about things, and you watch the videos and you're going, yeah, I would do this and I would do that. No, you wouldn't. No, I quickly realised, no, I wouldn't. I would get smashed to the ground and battered. So it really changed my perspective on the whole point of why I train, and it's self-defence. It's purely to be safe. So what I was doing was good, but if someone got a hold of me, I was done. So time to mix it up, and it's time to learn. So I trained for maybe three months with these guys. They were blue belts, obviously, and then I had one last shot at taekwondo competition. I thought, I'm going to do one more. So for me, I never went, I'll just go and do it. It's in April. Okay, I'm going to start training this April. And I would train for 11-10 months leading up to it. Make sure that I was on, my best performance possible. Not just that, I'll give it a go. Because like I told you, these guys were pros. If you were turned up to have a go, you got leveled. And it's not just that, I've lost in points. You're going home with broken ribs and a broken nose, maybe, a good pasting, which is not useful.
No.
So I stopped training jits and kept doing that. And then after I came back, there was some changes in my personal life, and a lot of time got freed up, and I thought, I'm going to go back. So 2017, I went back to train with the guys. They were almost purple belt now.
Oh wow, okay.
And they train under Marcos Nardini, who teaches out of the south side of Glasgow.
Yeah.
who himself is a highly decorated jiu-jitsu practitioner, competitor and teacher. You know, when you've got people like, you know, Paul Craig, the UFC, Marcos was his instructor that promoted him to brown belt.
Oh wow, okay.
So I believe, I mean, I can be corrected by anyone if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, you know, he's out of hit squad. And Marcos Nardini was the hit squad black belt. So up until recently, and then another guy that's Marcos' student is now taking over as the head coach.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, this is the guy to train with if I'm in Glasgow.
He's Brazilian.
Exactly, you know.
Doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I think his instructor was Amal Easton.
Yeah.
Who's out of Denver, who's highly respected in the American Jiu-Jitsu community.
Yeah, very highly respected, yeah. And I follow him on Instagram and I watch his stuff. And yeah, because, you know, Marco said he's putting me videos on, keep an eye on him. He's always posting stuff, it's always interesting. And he's the students are, you know, the number of them is insane, and his school is very well respected. And
so to have somebody like Marcos, who's an offshoot of that, we talked about lineage before, so we talk about that lineage.
Yeah.
Coming here, it's like we're incredibly lucky for that.
Very lucky, because it could quite easily have been the other way and never finding someone. So training with Chris and Nick was these guys are great instructors from a very early stage, you know, in their career. And the square we were training, it was in the Southside Grip House.
Yep.
I think it's Future Fitness now.
Oh yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah, and Marcos was just dotting around different places doing afternoon classes, and now he's got his own full-time place. We all moved there. So I had been maybe training 7 or 8 months, and we moved there as a white belt. That's now I've managed to get my blue belt. I've got a stripe on it as well.
Fantastic. Congrats.
Thank you. But again, Marcus always says your belt's only good for keeping your gi shut.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
does that great actually?
It's perfect for that, but it's also good for people holding on to you and dragging you to the ground.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that for me just totally opened my world, and I fell in love with it. It's almost like I've went full circle with one, and I've found another one, and I'm starting that journey because it's that passion that I've got there, that fire that I can feel was what I had when I first found Taekwondo. You know, that was what captured me, was this is so interesting, and oh my goodness. And now this, you know, training in Marcos, I'm just sitting in awe watching him, you know, destroy people twice his size, like a cat playing with a ball of string. You know, he's just flicking them around and rolling around with them, and then they're hitting the floor, and what just happened, and he's choking them with their own clothes, or, you know, it's really intense, but it goes really well with what I do originally just now. And everything that I'm doing there strengthens my Taekwondo game, and everything that I do there strengthens my Jits game. So it's really bizarre, but they seem to work so well together, and I'm trying to figure it out from a sports science point of view. But I think purely it's the movement. You know, stand up at martial arts has got a lot of core strength from kicking and twisting and jumping, a lot of explosive. To get someone off you, you have to be explosive, but you have to be soft at the same, you know, at other points. It's not a case of just being strong and slowly pushing someone away. It doesn't work, because they can slowly hold on. It's that constant movement to the explosive, to then constant soft movement, which comes from things like the pattern and the kata, where you're moving soft, moving hard. I think, you know, maybe from that point of view, and the flexibility has a huge advantage.
Absolutely.
When you're on the ground, if your
doing
legs
rubber guard and things, and
I'm not at that point. I mean, I can do it, but I don't feel that it's my strongest point. There's a lot of pressure on the knees when you're doing things like rubber guard, but just purely keeping things like knee shields and using your legs and spider guard and things like that, and being able to put your leg on the floor while your other one's on his hip. You know, good hip dexterity is a huge advantage,
which is kind of essential for a kicking martial art.
Exactly. So yeah, for me that transition just kind of occurred naturally. I think it was a natural progression of you've got to here, you're kind of coming back, because, you know, there's only 2 more exams for me, and then there's no more information for Taekwondo. That's me a master.
Oh wow, fantastic.
And you've learned everything. like I said earlier, you're always still learning to improve, but you've learned all the syllabus. So I'm getting to that point where I'm like, I need something that's got a lot of information coming at me.
Yeah, and jiu-jitsu always.
And it's never ending.
Yeah.
And that's what I've discovered is there's no end game. There's no, once you get here, you've learned it, because every day somebody's coming up with something new.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Keenan Cornelius coming out with this new lapel system.
Right, okay.
He's totally changed the game with things like worm guard and wrapping people up with their own lapels. Then you've got John Danaher's leg system.
Oh yeah, I was fascinated listening about that.
Yeah.
And like how he came up with a system, like speaking to Dean Lister, who was famous for his leg locks, but back in like the late 90s, early noughties, and then by the two of them meeting together in a chance encounter, and Lister saying to Danaher that, you know, why don't you go for leg locks? It's half the body. And I suppose at that point when somebody goes, yeah, okay, we're missing out half of the potential target.
Exactly.
You kind of go, actually, let's do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's massive on the no gi side. You don't get a lot of legs in the gi because of the IBJJF rules.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, it's very restricted to what you can do. Especially, well, not so much with the black belts, but on the other levels. So you don't start learning until later on. But when it's invitationals like Polaris and ADCC, anything goes.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of heel hooks and knee bars and toe holds and all sorts of crazy stuff. Me personally, I'm not a leg person at all just now.
Right,
I'm sticking with the basics because I don't want to be that guy that goes out and starts reviewing everything. Video. There's information overload.
Yeah.
When you're starting, you do what your professor tells you, and that's it. And you master the things he's teaching you because he's teaching you them for a reason.
Yeah.
Don't go, I want to learn heel hooks. Good, because they'll, low percentage, stick to high percentage, position over submission at the moment.
That's the kind of fundamentals of jiu-jitsu.
But I think that comes from the fact that we've trained before and we know that there's a foundation, there's a building block, and if you've got a rocky foundation, everything that just collapses. Which is, I'm a geotechnical engineer. I design foundations.
Yeah, so that kind of
for me, everything just kind of falls together all of a sudden. Foundations. But you've got to have something to build off of, and if you're going to develop a game, which is generally what happens in jits, you make your own game. Going back to what you're talking about with Judo and it being adapted.
Yeah.
If you don't have hip flexibility, you don't do butterfly guard or things like rubber guard. You stick to simple things. You don't do it, so you can change. It's not going to limit you in any way. You just don't play that area. You watch any match. The Brazilian Cup has just finished.
Okay.
I don't know if you've watched any of the online.
No, I didn't actually.
I think it's flow grappling. You can stream everything, and you watch them. One of the guys from Mendes Brothers. Students. 6 fights and 4 of them were the same submission.
I've really just
because that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
So he's been working on what they call a bow and arrow choke.
Right. Okay.
And he scored 4 bow and arrow chokes, one after the other, and the 3 of them were quarter-final, semi-final, final. So people go in with a game. This is what I'm working this time. This is what I'm going to do this time. Same as in UFC, MMA. You know that they've went right. We've watched our fighter. This is what this person does. Khabib and McGregor being a fine example of. He's going to try and strike you. Khabib's like, right, okay, and they're going to corner. He's going to take you to the ground. Don't let him put you down. So McGregor works on takedown defence, and it worked for so long until he got dragged down because he was tired.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I like about the jiu-jitsu is it's a game plan. When you're striking and only striking, it's a very dynamic fight, but it's very linear. It can only go certain way. Go punch him or kick him. That's it. There's nothing else to it. When there's other things involved like jits or wrestling, it's not. It doesn't become from 1-dimensional to 4-dimensional. It's like 12D. It can go anywhere. And that it's like a game of death chess.
Oh right, okay.
and you've got to be 6-10 moves ahead, because everything there's a counter for every counter for every counter, and it's endless, and that's why I like it. That's what I think has grabbed me, and why I like watching the high end UFC stuff. Did you watch 237?
Yes, I did. So just to the weekend there, yeah.
Yeah, Lama Nunez when she got smashed out, spiked like a.
But she had a good. She had a really good.
Tight Kimura.
It was a Kimura. It was an armbar, was it not? It was a Kimura.
Oh, she was going for the Kimura. I think she had the standing armbar, and then when she went with a high crotch, she tried to switch to the Kimura because she got the arm bent. Why didn't she let go?
The thing is, like in the very first round, if I remember correctly, Andrade went for that same kind of high crotch single leg, and Namajunas countered with the Kimura, and even though Andrade lifted her up, I think Andrade was like, let's not slam her, because if she does, she'll probably dislocate my shoulder,
because it was the wrong position they were in.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. There was a little thing I was reading today, an Instagram post called Viral BJJ.
Right. Okay.
One that I follow, and it was really interesting because it was looking at it from a coach's point of view.
Okay.
So they were saying that the counter for a high crotch is not the Kimura.
Right.
The counter for the Kimura is a high crotch. It's the other way around. So they were explaining it, they broke it down. I highly recommend you have a look at it.
Okay.
So he said that's not a failure on Rosie's part, that's a coaching error. She's been taught the wrong thing, or she's been told the wrong thing.
Is it effectively the mirror image?
Yes.
She's sold?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the thing, because a standing Kimura is very hard to finish. Very hard to finish, because the whole point of the Kimura is that it locks the shoulder against the rotator cuff position, and the way out of it is to roll. If you're standing, you don't have your legs on the person to stop them rolling, so it becomes what we call a Kimura sweep, where you put them down, and it happens a lot in jits on the ground when someone's side control and they go for turtle position, they go for a Kimura, they try to roll with it. If they don't stop and block the hip, the person just rolls, but you end up having the side control. So it goes from turtle to side, and it's a Kimura sweep. So when you're standing, it's really similar.
Okay.
So if someone's holding your arm and you're standing, you just roll out, but you're on the ground. So the counter is pick him up and smash him into the ground. That's it. If you high crotch, they're not going to lock your arm up because you're underneath them. They've got a lot of distance to travel to get that arm out. Plus, you've got one of their legs. So it's a huge disadvantage if you're going. But that's what I like about it. With that little post was it broke it down, and it kind of looked at it from the way I look at things as a coach, of going, right, I know this is how you like to do this, but that is not what you're supposed to do in this scenario. That switch kick is not a counter. That's not the counter to their back kick. It's the other way round. So if they're in the position to use that back kick, don't try and switch kick. It's not going to work. And trying to explain that and break it down and show them it. It generally revolves around sparring with them and showing them by doing it to them, because that's generally what happens in jiu-jitsu as well. I don't know how that works. Come here. Okay, right, yeah, got it.
Easy.
Yeah, you're right. And it's a really fast application, but that's what I like about watching the high level guys, because these people train so much, and it's easy to make a mistake under pressure. That's pressure fighting for, okay, it was a title, but at the end of the day, you're fighting for money. Yeah,
it's a fair bit of money, I suppose.
But what if it was outside? You're then no longer fighting for money, you're fighting potentially for your life. So, or the person you're with that can't fight, and you can't run. So understanding things more and breaking them down in applications and being able to do it under pressure has more value than people realise. They think it's just stand and bang and roll about a little bit. Yeah, but remember why you're learning this. It's not to compete. You're learning this because at the end of the day, these are all martial arts, and the whole point of a martial art was for defence.
Yeah, there's two words in martial arts. The first one's martial.
Yeah, and art is not sport. It's, it's an art form. It's completely different. It's the sport side of things developed later.
Yeah.
I mean, they first started as a show to demonstrate
like
the power,
masculinity and things like that.
Well, it was more of they always use the phrase in the movies to demonstrate our might.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know, and that was it. It was we'll fight like this, and then I don't know if you've ever seen the Jet Li movies about the Jingwu schools.
I've not seen them.
So the Jingwu Wushu.
Right.
And it became no longer a sport. They would sign a death waiver before they would compete because there was a potential that you could die because there was no holding back. It wasn't sparring because they understood that martial arts has the power to kill. You know, all of them do.
Depends how you apply it, of course.
If used properly, they can be really, really dangerous.
And things
So it was really it's interesting to watch, and you know, to look back at how it was first done. That it was showing our might, that we are the best. But before that, it was all, no, we need to defend ourselves because these people are coming to take our houses and our families and our food. And then it's, no, actually, we're all safe now, we've all got our stuff. Let's fight each other to see who's the best. And that's just kind of where the sport stuff is developed from. But what I'm learning it for is the original reason. It's the martial art reason.
Because I think people forget, like, see when we're sparring, I think we've sparred once or twice before, but then it's a good time. You ultimately have a good time because it is a game when you're sparring.
Oh yeah.
That you go, okay, you've got this position, but let me trick you out of it, and you counter my counter, etc., etc. And then, you know, if you get a good position and either it feels really uncomfortable or it's a choke or whatever, you tap and you move on, you go in the next position.
Respect the tap.
Respect the tap, which is a vital part of it. But the tap isn't part of the game. The tap symbolises whoever it is, you know, killing the other person or severely injuring them. Well, so that's ultimately it's a game for that situation. But in another paradigm, if this was out in the street and you had to be involved in a kind of self-defense situation, that would have a different connotation.
Well, yeah, there is no tap.
Yeah.
Therefore, you can't get into that position. So when people are always spending their time, like we just said, I want to learn leg locks. Okay, well, while you're going for that, I'm, you know, choking you and you're asleep.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know, it's very hard to land these low percentage things. Whereas from a point of view, if you can control someone, if you can take them down, or stop them taking you down, and if you do go down on the ground, you can remain in the dominant position. You will be safe. Yeah, you can get to a safe position. You know, and then if you add the striking in, it's just a big difference in being able to stay safe. Yeah, because I know that jiu-jitsu, I think Eddie Bravo's a big proponent of combat jiu-jitsu. Oh, yeah, we call it jits with hits. Jits with hits, well, that is exactly what it is. It's horrendous. So you're not a fan of it now? Oh, no, as in it's horrendously hard. Oh, horrendously hard? Oh, it's so bad. Yeah, Marcos doesn't do it much, but the guy that I was telling you about, Chris, is now a brown belt, and they're both brown belts now. Oh, fantastic. They like doing it now and again. We used to do this thing where we'd get together at Boxing Day, and we'd go to the gym and we'd do every kind of style you can think in sparring. Oh wow, okay. Because there was guys there that were Muay Thai competitors. I was there was karate guys, there was boxers, there was the jiu-jitsu guys, there was a couple of Greco wrestlers. Oh wow, okay. And we would just mix it up. So we're like, right, what are we doing first? Right, let's boxing, okay, big boxing gloves on, spar boxing. Right, what's next? Right, okay. So it was great because you totally humbling being able to train with these people. And they're proficient at their own stuff. Yeah. And then they said, right, anything goes. Okay. Now it's a different story. Oh yeah. So, you know, you get taken down and you're going, right, I'm comfortable here, I'm going to do this, and then you get bang in the side of the ear and going, what the hell was that? Because you're not used to it, and it's the guy punching you in the head from the bottom sometimes, laughing at you. Because he's like, haha, here we go, you know, or they get on top, they go knee on belly, and then they start punching you, and you're trying to push their knee off while they're punching you in the face. So you can no longer do the jiu-jitsu defence that you've been training, because you've got to stop yourself getting hit in the face. So again, totally changes everything. So for me, I was like, I can't do this just now, I need to learn the fundamentals first, because that's, again, it's a whole new world from there. So that'll be the next progression. When I get far enough along with my training that I think I'm good enough, I'll then add the style of combat jiu-jitsu and work on being able to defend with the hitting.
The slaps, isn't it? Like, but
Yes, yeah. Well, that was what it was originally. Was Baz Rutten when he was on the ground back when he was fighting
pancreas.
Yeah, pancreas. It was all open hand slaps in the head. You weren't allowed to punch bare hand, so
because it was a wrestling style.
So it was all bang, bang, and I'm like, what are they doing? And he had, as I remember it specifically, I don't know who he was fighting, but he's sitting there and he's got his typical wrestling boots on and his black Y-ferns,
of course,
and he's holding this guy's leg, and the guy's slapping him in the face, and he's sticking his tongue out and laughing at him, and he's going, bah! And he's taking the slaps and he's laughing, and I'm like, what am I watching here? What have I found?
It's on the bizarre at that point, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it was just too much. I'm like, stop slapping him. It's clearly not working.
But then, Bas Rutten, he obviously been a karate fighter before that.
Yeah,
he did Kyokushin, I'm pretty sure. I think there's a lot of strikes that involve palm strikes, but it's not palm. It's more the kind of
the heel of the hand.
Heel of the hand. So I think he stretched his hand so far that it's not a slap. It's not the palm.
No,
that
it
hit.
Yeah,
it's
all
the heel.
All heel hand. Yeah.
So that strike went from something that's stingy to something that's
dangerous,
quite powerful.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's definitely Kyokushin, because he started the pro karate, that little TV show that he was doing, where it was the the ring with the burned edges that you couldn't get out the ring, and that was quite good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I've never seen any of that. But
you haven't?
No,
there's some really good fights on that. Really good, and it's traditional karate rules.
Okay.
But the only difference is they all come in topless.
They've
got their gi pants on and their black belts, and then their tops off, and
just for the show, I suppose, at that point.
Yeah, they call it too much machismo. And the bravado.
Yeah.
But that's a really good a good fighting channel. A little series. I think it was called Combat Karate.
Yeah, that rings a bell actually.
I think that's what it's called, and it's just I love Bas Rutten. He's so eccentric, and commentating. He's brilliant. He'll be mid flow about something, and then he'll be, "Oh my God, did you see that?" And then he'll just keep talking again about what just happened. He's amazing. He's such a character,
and he's got that energy about him. You can't fail to just listen to what he's saying.
Yeah, you can't turn him off.
No.
You're just totally encapsulated. Like Baz is on. Nobody speak to me. I need to listen to this guy.
Because you never know what he's going to say, and that's in a very positive way. Because when he was commentating Pride, him and Mauro Ranallo, they had a really good dynamic. Because Mauro was like the kind of play-by-play guy, and Bas was the more specialist.
Yeah,
and then it was just the dynamic. It made it not just kind of informative what was going on, like, this is this big slam or whatever, but it was very just entertaining.
Yeah, it was like a couple of guys watching it in the pub.
Yeah,
having a chat.
Just one of those guys happens to be a former UFC heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah,
just that's the only difference, really,
But essentially, no, it's any time you watch any sport, when you listen to the commentating, you've got the pundit, and you've got this is the BBC person, because they've got the regional accent, and all they'll be doing is reading facts from a sheet.
Yeah,
and that's. Oh yeah, we're on the golf. I'm a fan of golf. I don't want to talk about golf, but when they're talking about that, the whatever hole they're on, the guy that knows what he's talking about will be talking about how he's setting up the shot and what he's going to play. The other person's going, he got 6 pars on this hole in the last year, and 25 people have parred it this week, and everyone's going, nobody cares. We're watching what the guy's doing. They're just the people that read the sheets. It's the real passionate folk that have done it and they've lived it, like Paz. And he can't get enough of it. I'm pretty confident that guy would commentate fighting until he's dead.
Yeah. I think he's commentated, and you always want to listen to somebody like that. Like another good example is like Daniel Cormier from the UFC.
Yeah,
I love listening to him commentate, because heavyweight champion in the UFC, another one, but another light heavyweight champion, and he's an Olympic wrestler. So whenever he's talking about wrestling, I always go, right, this is a nuggets here, because he always says this is how you would train it, this is how you do that, and you'd give a good summary of what's going on.
Yeah,
and you just go blow my mind. I would just immediately like, this is groundbreaking for me personally, kind of thing.
No, I'm exactly the same. When someone breaks something down because they know how to explain it, then that's when you start to absorb and start to get valuable information that you wouldn't get elsewhere from just your run-of-the-mill guy saying, you could probably defend that like this, and like I told you earlier on when I first got into it, and I would do this and I would just do that in that scenario, and I've subsequently realised that no, you bloody wouldn't. No. What you would do is you would get plastered, and then that would be the end of it. So, and a lot of that stemmed from working in the clubs, because I worked with a lot of meatheads in my time. A lot of really good. The club I settled in, everyone on the door was a martial artist.
Oh wow!
Every single one of them, and the guy that ran the door from the office, but the guy that was assistant manager, a guy called Simon Downey, who's a Shotokan karate guy, ex-marine, and he used to laugh when there was people come in to work, and that was what they would say. Oh, what would you do if this? I'll just blast him in the mouth, and I'll just do this. And he used to stand there sniggering. And Simon was huge. I mean, he would dress, the kind of guy that dressed up as the Hulk for Halloween, and all he did was paint himself green, and he looked like Lou Ferrigno. He's massive, like an absolute unit of a man. And he'd laugh, and because he wouldn't do that because he knows it doesn't work, and he's huge. It was just this egotistical, I can do this and I can do that, and I've watched that video and I know how to do this. And you thought, I hope it doesn't kick off tonight, because that's the guy that's got my back, and it's not going to go well. Yeah. And I used to be that guy when I was 20, 21. I thought I'll be alright. Then I suddenly realised no, and you develop this system of, I don't want to fight anyone. No, I'm just going to talk to everybody now. And for the last 4 years, there was very rarely trouble. And because every one of the guys were properly trained, they knew how to handle themselves, but they never had to.
Yeah, that's part of the kind of confidence of knowing that, like, if it came down to it, I'm okay, but let's not injure each other. Let's have a good time. Let's be humans about it. We're not animals at the end of the day. So we're just
people out having a good time, and you're just there to make sure that they're keeping the peace, and everybody comes in safe, goes home safe, and that's it. And that's like when you said there, if it came down to it, I'll be safe. Generally, that's not what came out of your head. Was if it comes down to it, I might get a couple of good ones in, because you never know if you're going to be safe. You don't know what the other guy can do. You don't know what he's got. You don't know how many people he's with. There's only 4 of you standing at the front door. He could walk away and come back with 20. And that happened loads of times. Guys in the garage, it was a big incident. They didn't let 3 people in. They were a bit mouthy with them. They went away and came back, and 4 of them died. They all get stabbed. So you're never safe. You never get cocky. Doesn't matter who you are and what you can do. There's always somebody bigger and harder. So that was why, for me, training martial arts was always a case of, you were learning self-control, you were learning discipline, you were learning that you don't fight. You're training for your own betterment, and you have an underlying moral culture and an ethic that we're here to be sociable, to be nice to each other, and a huge amount of humility is involved.
Because I think from what you mentioned in terms of humility, the moment, and I remember this vividly as well, when you first do jiu-jitsu or you first roll with somebody, you immediately learn humility at that point, because you go, like, at that point I wasn't really that much into my martial arts journey. I think I was like 1 year in after doing karate, and then you go, okay, this guy who is smaller than me, he probably doesn't lift as much as I do, but he's still choking me out, he's armbarring me. Oh dear.
It feels like he's a bus sitting on top of you.
Yeah.
There's this tiny wee guy. Why is my face getting squashed into the mat? Where's the shoulder pressure coming from? And that's it. Yeah, you get I described it as a big slap in the face of with a humility pamphlet, and there was nothing you can do. It is very humbling when you come across someone that's far superior, and the only thing you can do is take it as I suppose, as like you say, a bit of luck, and an opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
And not just walk away in a fit of rage going, son of a goddamn, you just beat me up, I need to go away and get bigger and stronger, and I'm going to go back and learn from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I suppose in a way it's important to have that competitive edge, but it's how you use it. So say if you're in the same kind of gym and somebody's always kind of beating you, I think it's okay to go, actually, let's in this sparring session, let's only get tapped 4 times out of 5. So you're still ultimately improving, you're still competing, but it's the appropriate energy that you put into it.
Yeah, the problem is that when people compete, they compete against the other person. The only person you need to compete against is yourself. And every session, try and perform better than you did on the last one. That's it. As long as you've got continual improvement, because what you have to remember is that the guy you're up against has also got continual improvement. If he's training the same amount, so you can't come up against this guy every week and go, I'm going to eventually beat him, because if he keeps training, he's going to keep travelling on that same progression line. That's it. There's no other way around it. So you can't pitch yourself excuse me, against someone that's been training 2 years longer, 3 years longer, and continues to train. It just doesn't happen. You'll see it a lot with people that drop away from the gym and come back.
Oh yeah.
So we've had there's a lot of people that leave jiu-jitsu or any martial art because purely personal circumstance, opportunity cost, all these things that get in the way, and they say, right, I need to take a break, or injury, for example. There's a lot of injuries in wrestling and ground fighting. They're like, okay, I popped a shoulder, up my elbow, up my knees, bloody heel hooks. So you're out for a while, and then you come back, but you'll see the guys that have continually trained, and the big difference in the jiu-jitsu game I see is between white belts and blue belts. They think, I got my blue belt, I can smash everybody. It's not like that at all. It's not. It's a big jump from one to the other because it's your first colour. It's a big jump in terms of personal achievement. It's not a big jump in terms of the art form. When you look at it in the big picture, it might be a big jump in your gym because the purples, browns, blacks are very limited. There's a rake of white and blue, and you go from this bunch to this bunch. So you're going, wow, I've surpassed all of them, but you haven't, because they've maybe training less time, or you're putting more hours in at the gym. So, excuse me, you always have to look at it that I couldn't do this week. I want to set myself a task that within the next month, when I'm rolling, I can hit those 4 sweeps. Yeah. Or that we've been working on, or 1 or 2, whatever it is, or at the end of a teaching block. He said that you've worked on 3 or 4 techniques that you say to yourself, okay, we've finished that block. By the end of this month, I want to be able to hit at least 2 of those techniques in each roll. That's it. I want to be able to throw that sweep, or I want to be able to get out of side control with this move against anyone, and that's all you work on. So I'll go in and I'll roll with Chris. Chris is like 105 kilos, but he's not a fat guy. He's like maybe 6 or 7% body fat. He's a strong. He's a very big lad. A lot of weight training, but he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And not once does he put 100% in, unless he's rolling with Marcos. And he's now become one of Marcos's like real training partners for competition prep.
Oh wow!
He's real high level now. But when he's rolling with us, he plays. He only steps it up when he has to. But you can still feel him there, and you still feel him moving. So he's competing. He's got a competition coming up, and he just said to me, "Can we work on side control?" So we spent maybe half an hour. Everyone's rolling around. They're all trying different things. And I went, "Just that." I went, "Okay." He says, "Just, I want to escape." So we spent 6-minute rounds for half an hour, and me just holding him down, him moving. Okay, you got out of it. Reset. Okay, reset again. Okay, right, try a couple from mount, try a couple from this.
Oh wow, okay.
And it was just me, everything I had into holding him, and everything he had into escaping. And that's a brown belt. Not saying I want to try this, and I want to do this, and I'm going to do flying arm bars. And he's like, just let's work on the basics for the comp prep. Because that's where you get stalled.
Yeah.
You know where people are going to try and hold you and secure points and stop you from doing anything, so you've got to be able to move. And I was pointing this out to a couple of the beginner guys because they were over in the corner watching a wee video, and I'm like, you need to have observe what's going on in your gym, look in the environment, look at the people you want to be like. Who do you look at and admire and say, I aspire to be like them? Okay, do you see them sitting in the corner with their phone? No. Are they looking up, flying arm bars and trying to practice? No. Right, why are you? Like, it's cool learning fancy stuff, but if you're going to do this seriously, stick to the training, stick to what you need to do for now. Leave that for when you can do that stuff. So when you come in and he says, show me a triangle, show me an arm bar from the top and the bottom, and you can do it, then you can start something else. But if he asks you, show me that I've just taught you tonight, and you can't do it, don't sit and look at your phone and try and study somebody else and something cool because you saw it in John Wick. Do you know what I mean? It's...
Yeah. And actually, John Wick's got a lot of shit in it. Like the guy who's the fight coordinator.
Keanu Reeves is a massive fan, and it seems to be spreading because now you've got Henry Cavill is also training, and
Jonah Hill.
I know, another celeb on it. But the thing is, they're all realising the massive health benefits as well from any type of martial arts training.
And this one, you don't get hit, you don't get concussions.
No. The thing is that for our styles that we teach and we train a lot in, it's hard to promote because just now jiu-jitsu is the attractive art form in MMA because it's the advertised one.
What's the one that MMA or the UFC was designed to promote? So it will always have that undercurrent of history of
course it was designed for that. Yeah. And that's quite a sad thing because the traditional martial arts that are not losing out, but people are not so aware of, and it's not getting the publicity that it deserves. Because we were talking about this before, that if they say, oh yeah, but taekwondo and is it useful? And you're saying, well, yeah. What did Anderson Silva study? What about Barbosa? There was a Petit as well.
Who's that?
Pettis, I think you call him.
Oh yeah, yes, Anthony Pettis. Yeah, absolutely.
Three of them are taekwondo black belts, and they're high-ranking UFC fighters.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's a couple of other people that were UFC and they've moved away. Is it Cruikshanks?
Oh yeah, Dan Cruikshank, the Detroit superstar.
Taekwondo black belt.
Yeah, because his style was heavy taekwondo based. Like he had a lot of different kicks that you would go, oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's quite a large amount of the high level folk train in a traditional martial art.
Or they start off doing that.
Yeah, or like they have trained in one before they move across to the mixed martial arts side. The problem that we have at the moment, especially in this country, is that people just go to an MMA gym and okay, what are you here for? I want to do MMA. And when people say I do MMA, that's a big pet hate. I mean,
I love the grammar in that sentence.
There's so many things wrong with that. I don't even know where to begin. But it's not. You study something. You're a student of it, and they forget that because they've disappeared, or they've deviated from the traditional form of what a martial art is. It's no longer you're learning a disciplined art form. You're learning this process and respect and hierarchy. You just walk in and everyone's alright, mate. How you doing, mate? Aye, and high fiving, and then slagging each other, giving each other a lot of abuse, swearing, throwing each other around. And it's not martial arts. It's not. It's testosterone fueled fighting. That's all it is, and it's all it is ego soothing. And it's upsetting because they forget that the guys that are up top right now, not one of them started there. They didn't start like that. They all started, nice clean pressed white suit with a belt on, bowing to their instructor and calling him sir, because that's what you're supposed to do. It's funny because I notice it more because I've came up that way, that when I go to the other gyms, Marcos, I don't call him Marcos, I call him sir, because that's just where I am. and I see people laughing, other guys in the gym laughing, going, check him out. It's just a term of respect.
Yeah, ultimately your teacher is that. Like, you never called your teachers at school
No.
Stevie.
No,
or
didn't.
Or Maureen or whatever.
Mate,
Yeah.
or bro.
Yeah.
Bro. No. Your bros are your teammates.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
your teacher.
Different levels.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because of this widespread broing out of that MMA has generated, that we're losing that originality of martial art. We're losing that that respect, which is upsetting a little bit for people that have grown up through the original style, and we've not. We didn't have this culture that everyone has now. It's a generational thing. We've got to learn to go with the times, but I think from my point of view as a coach, I'm trying to keep that there. I want that to remain. I don't want us to lose that, because there is a lot of respect in the art form, and there's a lot of respect in UFC and MMA at a high level. And I've got this fear that when these guys retire, the next generation coming in are going to be, just a team of Conor McGregors that are loudmouths, but then don't have the humility that he has after the fight.
Oh yeah, he was really good for that actually. Yeah.
He has the bravado and the build up, because let's be honest, he's a marketing man.
Yeah, he wants to make money.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a huge play. I think that was a lot of WrestleMania style publicity. Anyone that throws a chair through a bus in American state and puts someone in hospital is going to jail.
Yeah.
End conversation. There's no, we're doing an internal investigation and this and that. No, the police come, you're arrested, you go to jail.
Yeah.
End of conversation. You get a slap on the wrist, so a 50 grand fine.
Yeah, I think it's like the thing that somebody mentioned is that he chucked a dolly, what are they called? It's quite a heavy thing into a bus. So something that even just that hitting somebody could probably kill somebody ultimately. Yeah. And he injured Ray Borg and a few other people. So like proper like lacerations.
Yeah.
Like I think Ray Borg got glass in his eye.
Yeah, people had to pull out of their fights.
Yeah, so that's probably, as a professional, like that's how they make money. They had to get pulled out for something completely unrelated to what they're doing.
Yeah.
Wasn't to do with a weight cut, wasn't to do with whatever reason. But just say
external
McGregor,
influence.
Yeah, external influence. Yeah. So McGregor did that and he was fine. But what happens if Ray Borg did that and McGregor was on the bus? Would the same level of leniency apply to somebody?
Probably not, because of all the hype around the fights that McGregor was bringing, the ticket sales he was bringing in.
Yeah, so it's definitely not a democracy at that point.
Oh no, I think there was a huge. I don't like the word conspiracy, but there was definitely something going on between McGregor and Dana, where they were basically creating each other. A lot of people are saying McGregor makes the UFC. He made it big and he added a lot of viewers to it, and I think he's publicised it a lot. But they made him, and it was very short lived. Someone that's hyped to be that good would be around for a lot longer competing.
Yeah. If they hyped Khabib up, and he would, if they'd given him the same amount of press coverage, etc., he would probably be around forever.
Yeah, I just don't think he has the character for it. I think Dana White was waiting for his Randy Macho Man Savage of loudmouth, who would burst into press conferences back in the WrestleMania 4 days and take the microphone and start shouting at people and and shouting at the camera that was who he was. That was his persona. And I think that's all McGregor was. He was a persona purely for a marketing point of view. The UFC was starting to quiet down. There wasn't as much happening. The fights weren't getting as much publicity. They were losing their sponsors. And I think they went, we need to hype this up a bit. This guy's a bit of a character. Let's see if we can get him to play on it. Turning up to press conferences, drinking whiskey and getting hammered, force feeding it to Dana White and all that. Nobody else does that. And nobody else does it now. So if it was allowed then, and it is not a problem, why is nobody else doing it? why is it all of a sudden stopped?
Yeah, it's kind of just disrespectful at a certain degree.
That's my point. It's disrespectful because we're losing that. I think we're losing that little.
It's not a martial art anymore at that point, is it? It's a PR machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we've gone from being, like we talked about, traditional and humble to market, money, sponsor. And I think how we got onto this little line of discussion is purely because the next generation that's coming through has been grown up watching people like McGregor and thinking it's okay to behave like that. Somebody put a video on, and this one really got my back up, and it's a shame because it was a 6 or 7 year old, and he walked onto a mat, the WT Taekwondo, the Olympic style, the hat and the bodyguard, and he's walking around the ring, the McGregor walk, waiting for his opponent to come on the mat at a traditional Taekwondo match.
Can't do that.
The wee boy did it a little bit and stopped, and I can hear his parents telling him to continue, go, and he's walking around the mat with the swinging arms. If I was a referee at that, I'd have disqualified him there and then.
You're bringing everything that disrespect. You're disrespecting yourself by doing that.
The entire art form has been brought into disrepute.
His coaches or her coach, or
it's horrendous.
The competition.
Yeah, it really upset me. Yeah. Like on the, I don't get angry about a lot of stuff. I'm just kind of most of the time going, yeah, whatever. It's not within my control. But that one really annoyed me to the point where I was ready for sending emails and messages to everyone I could saying this is not right.
Yeah, we can't keep doing this.
We are not going to bastardise the art form that I love. Apologies for swearing.
No, it's fine.
There's that point where you're just, we're coming too far here. We're going too far. Leave that for the showboating marketing side of sport. The whole point of Taekwondo is that it's the respect thing. When you start a WT match, the Olympic match, they don't even put their helmet on. That you walk on and you bow with your helmet in your arm.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
because you're not in sparring. That's the respect thing, and then you bow to the referee. Then they put their head guard on, ready for sparring, ready for battle. And then when you're done, it comes off and you bow. From our side, we do now, but we never used to wear the head guards. You do you bow in, you're sparring, you're commanded to bow. When the match finishes, you go and shake the hand of the other coach, irrespective of the result. Yep. You take your glove off and you wipe your hand and you're shaking hands.
Skin and skin.
Yeah, I see a lot of people walking over and the coach goes like that and the guy just kind of hits his hand like a fist bump with a glove on. And that inhale there, the exacerbation, and you weren't even there. It gets my hair up, and I'm like, I would never have done that as a competitor, because that guy sitting in that chair that's the coach could be, 10 times world champion, and now a Taekwondo master, and you've just went over and went, cheers mate.
But yeah, it's part of a martial art is respect.
Yeah.
And you learn it sometimes the hard way. If you come in a bit with bravado and you get beat down to size and you go, actually, I'm not this, I'm not up here anytime yet, I'm just started out, I'm very much down at the bottom. And then once you start coming to class, start learning from your coaches, start applying what you're learning from your coaches, which probably, maybe you'd agree, that's a big compliment that you go, I taught him that.
Oh yeah.
And he's doing it, so, and that, you build your respect that way, and then you give respect to other coaches that might be of a same level as who you're training with or whatever, and then it's all part of a big family, because even though you're competing against them, ultimately you're all under the same banner, be it karate, be it taekwondo, be it jiu-jitsu.
At the end of the day, it's just a medal. It's just a title. It's going to disappear into history with everything else. You don't remember over history, the people that you remember are the great generals and the great leaders, not the crazy soldiers that kamikaze pilots and things like that. It's the great leaders, the ones that set the examples, that make the right decisions or the wrong decisions depending on your side of the coin. But the people that instill the values are the ones that you've got to look up to. And I had a student who was really bad when I first met him, and I mean, I don't know if he'll listen. He's in Chechnya, Chechen, but you know, Magomed came to me, and he was a young man who had a lot of testosterone. Came from a very rough background, being post Russia, Chechen war. It wasn't that long he was alive for it, and he just wanted to fight, and that was it. You know, and he would fight. You know, it wasn't sparring; he was fighting, and he was a yellow belt, and he won his first tournament. And I thought, yeah, there's potential here. And then his second tournament, he was too heavy, and he got a yellow card, so you lose a point. He kept being heavy, he got another yellow card, and it cost him the fight. And after it, he was arguing with the umpires and the referees and the officials, and he's like that. They gave him the bronze medal, presented it, and he's like that. You made the wrong decision today. You'd made a mistake. The wrong man won. And he was a big lad. Didn't scare me, and I dragged him to the side and I said, "Don't you ever speak to anybody like that again. You're representing me, not you." And he took that quite hard because they've got a culture of you always respect your seniors. Like, someone senior walks in the room, they'll stand up out of their chair. And I went to Chechnya to train him for 12 days before the World Championships, and I saw that there, and they didn't even know me. I would walk in the room, they were all up, and it was the most bizarre thing I've ever experienced, one of the best experiences, and I can't wait to go back because I met so many people, and I was treated so well. Honestly, it was fantastic, but he was a real savage. By the time he left me, he had a first degree black belt. He was a world champion, and he was a fantastic teacher. He used to help my classes. He went from being this bully to being someone who nurtured and nourished and helped. And people hated him when they first met him as a beginner. And when he left, they were all sad to see him go. And I like to think that training in that school is what done it. Because the only thing he did was train with me or study. So, civil engineering doesn't teach you respect. So
teach you to build buildings, I suppose.
So I think that for me, that was one of the biggest achievements I've ever had, and I've achieved a lot of stuff in martial arts, but that for me, watching him go from that person that first walked in to what he is now, and he now has a school in Chechnya, martial arts school, and his students are travelling all over Russia and winning. He's got a huge school, his own gym, and it's brilliant because he never wanted to be that guy. He wanted to be a fighter. Now he's a coach, he's a trainer, and it's brilliant. I absolutely love it, and that's a huge thing for me. It doesn't matter what I win or what title I get. For me, it's the people that we get to as a school produce and watch them grow and flourish, and then what they do. It's a big compliment to.
So those people are your medals in
coaching? Oh yeah, big time. You'll never forget the first time one of your students get their black belt. That goes from white belt to black belt. Your first real student, with you forever. That you'll never forget the feeling when you watch them pass, or the first time one of your students goes in and competes, and you see them all nervous, and you're nervous, and you're going, "Oh, I've not felt this nervous for a tournament ever," and man, I feel like I'm on the mat, and then they win, and that rush that you get when you see how happy they are. And I was never one for teaching kids. It was never one I wanted. And I have a kids' school in Edinburgh, and one of my students, she went to her first tournament and she won. And the look on her face when they gave her that gold medal, she's 8 years old, and she fought so hard, and now she's amazing. She trains harder. She's 10 now, and she's even helping teach little kids. When they're doing something, I turn around and she's over and she's fixing them and she's helping them. I'm like, this is what it's about. We're helping shape a generation, and we've got a chance to do some of it right. We don't get all of it. We don't get to do everything. We shouldn't do everything, but that little bit of trying to make them nice people. To a certain extent. A nice person, it's like you say, that's the medal. That's the achievement that we get.
Thank you for listening to the show. I really enjoyed that conversation, so I hope you did too. Let me know what you think about it. Get me on Twitter and Instagram at MMA Patter. And yeah, let me know what you think. And look out for future episodes next week and the week after, and hopefully the week after that. Cheers, bye bye.